Is Nvidia's new 4000 series really coming like as soon as a month? Remember before we even made a video where Jay's 2 cents had said that it could be actually delayed for up to a year. So now, are we saying that it may come sooner than we think? If there's a lot of information or even misinformation out there, I don't blame you. I mean, these rumors are flying left and right. We don't really know what to believe. On one hand, it's time for a new, GPU release. We've had RTX 3000 now. It's going to be 2 years. On the other hand, the GPU market is an absolute mess with stock being available on shelves of basically any GPU that you would like. Of course, pricing still being very high, but it's really available, which is a problem for Nvidia because if they release a new GPU, who's going to buy it at a really high price when RTX 3000 is going to go for really low prices and it's available in great abundance? You walk into almost any store, any online store that you check out, they have basically all of the GPUs in stock. If you want to pay the price or not, then that's up to you. At this point, I don't recommend anybody buy a GPU because either if you really want an RTX 3000, it's going to become cheaper when Nvidia even announces the next generation, or if you want the next generation, you're going to get better performance and whatever better integration of technology that sometimes is available on these newer GPUs. So really, what's going on here? Well, I mean, it would make sense if Nvidia released at least the RTX 4090. I mean, that's the one that we've been seeing rumored, and recently we saw some reporting saying that the RTX 4090 is already pretty advanced in terms of being in the hands of third-party AIBs. Now, these are all sort of secondhand rumors, so we just have to speculate on what's going on. It would make complete sense. I mean, it's basically already going into August, so it would make a lot of sense if these GPUs were well on the way to being released. And of course, the RTX 4090 is the one that's a safer bet for Nvidia to release because generally they're going to sell less of them compared to something like an RTX 4070 or 4060, and it's going to be their flagship GPU showing the best technology and the best, advance that they possibly can. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. Now, I don't doubt that something like the RTX 4070 is likely a fairly long time away. I wouldn't expect that until sometime next year. That one I think I'm pretty solid on, but the RTX 4090, even possibly a 4080, which are going to be the two higher tiered GPUs, those I really do think they have to be coming out fairly soon, at least some type of an announcement this fall. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see them come out this year. I think that's really what we have to expect. Now, that's going to have a tremendous effect on RTX 3000. Here's why. Even if they release the RTX 4090 in very limited numbers at a fairly high price, just a very introduction of saying, hey, a new generation is here. RTX 3000 was the big boy on the block, but it no longer is. It's kind of old news. So that coupled with the current market that's really not doing all that great, that's going to ensure that RTX 3000 goes down even cheaper. That's why it's good not to buy a GPU now. Even if you don't care about the 4090 or 4000 series, whatever GPU you buy should be significantly cheaper, barring any type of surprise or any type of world event that brings us back into the Stone Ages like it did during the last 2 years. That GPU should be significantly cheaper than any RTX 4000, and as GPUs start to come out, they're just going to get cheaper and cheaper if you're looking for something from the current generation. So that's sort of the waiting game that we're seeing in terms of pricing and availability. Now, what's going to be the story on performance? Of course, we don't have any benchmarks yet. All we have is some, possible theories based on some leaked information of the specs and things like that of what they could perform at. Now, as far as we can tell, yes, the RTX 4090 most likely will have a tremendous amount of performance. Sometimes people hype it up and say it's going to be twice a 3090. I don't think it's quite going to be like that. Maybe you have to sort of really clarify it. Maybe it's twice as good as a 3090, only in a specific use case, maybe like ray tracing or something like that, where maybe the newer technology surely could have more of an impact. But we don't quite know exactly where it's going to land. Some of these guesses as to the performance of something like a 4070, they say that could land close to a 4090, considering what the specs likely will be, and in some type of like a synthetic benchmark. But once again, we don't really know what the gaming performance is going to be like, but definitely you can assume a 4070, of course, it's going to be better than a 3070. It has to. It's a newer newer generation, most likely easily also beat a 3070 Ti. As we get to sort of that 3080 and 3080 Ti range, that's where I think it may really realistically fall. Will it be as fast as a 3090? Possibly, but you have to remember, there's no way it's going to have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and there's a good chance it's not even going to be GDDR6X VRAM, so not the faster variant found in a 3090. So when you say faster or as fast as a 3090, you really have to quantify it and look at the limitations of a 4070. So certainly a 4070, we can assume, especially because of the VRAM being less, it's not going to be on the same caliber as something like an RTX 3090 or a 3090 Ti. So those should be kind of safe from a 4070 for the most part, but it's not to say that in some games, maybe the frame rates may actually get really close, which will be very exciting. Imagine if the 4070 came in at that $500 to $600 mark and you're getting 3090 level performance in terms of your gaming. That's going to be great. Then it's going to be basically a 4K card pretty solidly. And then likewise, something like a 4080 could end up being, some people say, twice as fast as a 3080. Once again, I think that's way too optimistic. I would guess it's probably more realistic to expect maybe 10 to 20%. Maybe it's more realistic to expect maybe 15 to 20%. Of course, it wouldn't make sense for the performance gains to be any less than 15% because often between even a 3080, 3080 Ti and 3090, there's not that much of a performance gap in terms of traditional rasterization and gaming. So if a new GPU comes out that's a 4080, it better be considerably faster than even a 3090 so it can really pull that lead ahead and truly be a next generation GPU. So it goes without saying, performance should certainly be pretty impressive this next generation, but I think we're either going to have to wait a long time to see anything aside from like a 4090 and maybe 4080, and who knows how Nvidia is going to stagger the release. Maybe it's not going to be very widespread, maybe it's going to be very limited numbers. Before it was because they couldn't keep up with the sort of demand that they were facing. Now if it comes out in this type of climate where the market is very soft, a lot of people are selling RTX 3000, maybe they can withhold selling a lot of GPUs, maybe just produce less so they don't flood the market with RTX 4000 series, because after all, if they do that and the prices weren't that high, it would basically destroy anything that's left of RTX 3000, and I don't think they want that. Their partners don't want that, and retailers with so many still on the line waiting to be sold, they probably want to do a very soft landing with RTX 4000 so these GPUs get taken care of over time. Once again, they've been over this with the RTX 20 series, like the 2080 Ti did not sell particularly well because of the the mining that happened right before it. Much like now, the GPUs flooded the market, especially the 10 series. Something like a 1080 Ti is still a great GPU today, several years after. So maybe something might also happen with RTX 4000 where it's not quite as impressive, because something like a 3080 and 3090 were definitely great performing GPUs as they were. Now, some say that the 3090 Ti, even though it wasn't very popular this generation because of its price, it came way too late, it does, after all, still perform really well, even if you have to kind of ignore the price. Some people say with its 450 watt TDP, it actually has a lot in common with the RTX 4090 in terms of its design of its VRAM, in terms of the implementation of the cooler. So we're going to see if this really is sort of a very early 4000 series test in terms of the 3090 Ti. It would make complete sense. I'm sure they've been testing it and testing various things, and to see something actually out on the market like the 3090 Ti that could be an RTX 4000 sort of in disguise, very interesting to see. We'll see if something like that ends up being, I don't know, maybe like a 4080. And while a 3090 Ti is the top GPU now, when the next generation releases, now while the RTX 3090 Ti is the top performing GPU now, when RTX 4000 releases, most likely it's going to fall somewhere between a 4070, 4080, somewhere within that range, which is still pretty respectable since it's going to be a previous generation GPU with a little bit perhaps DNA of the next generation. So we're definitely going to have to see what happens. If RTX 4000 really comes out so soon, it's going to have a very big impact on the current GPUs now, which may be good for people looking to buy GPUs. But overall, the GPU market certainly is a bit of a mess right now, as it's been during the last few years. Only difference is now prices are going down, availability is pretty high, but people still aren't buying due to various reasons. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is it coming sooner than we expect? Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.